let's just think about the sales drivers, and then I'll just show you some of the things we're doing. So the sales drivers, again, like I was saying to you about our new client that's going to be really successful. What we need to identify is this sort of information. We don't want to know just about sales. We want to know what the sales are made up of. So we need to know the number of customers. We need to know how often those customers are buying, and we need to know how much they're spending on their transaction with us. So we need to monitor if that is ever changing, because that's a lead indicator, because if the amount they're spending with us by transaction might be an indication of they don't think that we're offering the value that we think we're offering. So we've also got to measure our marketing, our lead generation, our ability to convert those leads, to actually create them into customers in the first time, and then having got them, how good are we at keeping them? How good are we in terms of our customer care and our customer delight to make sure that those clients don't leave us? So how much they spend with us on a transaction just depends on our price and the quantity they buy and the number of times they buy is the relation between the two. Very few businesses I see will measure that. They've got that information, but because the software they use doesn't actually give that information, they don't measure it, and it's too much of a fag to measure it themselves, but it's really important. So let me show you the sort of things that is possible that we've started to do. So I'll stop sharing that, and I'll just share with you another. Right. Right, so if I share with you this screen I've got here, what we've invested in is software that will actually analyze this. And I'm not saying this from a boasting point of view, but it's because we're actually walking our talk. We're doing exactly the same as I'm talking to you about doing, is we're looking to be able to do more, but we realize that it's not going to be effective if we're just going to have adopt the donkey strategy and get our team to actually go in and rip out the stuff from their client's software and look at the information. So what we're doing is we're getting interrogation software that actually will now break down the information. This is just a demo company that we're showing, where you're looking at, this is like a May 2019 year end. So it's producing analysis in terms of traditional figures, sales. The month of May, last quarter, what increase? 10.6% down year on year compared to last May. Last quarter, 7% up on year, and the last 12 months, 0.2% down. Then it looks at gross margin. Now, this is stuff that you could normally do on any stuff, but it will break it down and divide the margin each month. So what? Then it looks at overheads and will produce the information. So that can all be done by what finance is already, and then we produce a net profit. So the net profit is 10.7k up in the month of May. On the quarter, 37.9k up, 626.8% up compared to the previous last quarter. And the overall profit, 79.9k up and 32.8% up year on year. So looking at ratios, analysing the different quarters and looking at the performance, and then looking at the value of the business, the value to the shareholders. But far more importantly, this is what it's now starting to give to us. So what we're talking about is saying, right, let's look at those sales drivers. So total sales, when we look at that, 1001k, so 1 million. Let's actually look how that's made up of. So in the previous 12 months, the number of transactions were 4,141. In the last 12 months, it's gone up to 4,360. So that's a tick, a positive variance. There's a 50,000 increase due to the number of transactions. The average value per transaction has actually reduced from 0.24k, £240 to £230. So although we actually had an increase in value of 50.3k by increase in number of transactions, because we're charging less, it's being wiped out by that 1 point reduction in price. Then we look at the customer drivers and we actually interrogate how many customers have actually been set up. Now, obviously, if the software say I was analyzing your software, if you just post sales and you don't put all your invoices down there that you post to your customers, the software I use now actually goes and looks at the number of invoices that you're posting to your customers and the number of times you're actually raising an invoice, so that each time is a transaction. And so it will also look at the number of new customers that are set up on your ledger. So the number of new customers was 98 the previous 12 months, down to 79. So a downward trend. The existing customers that were there previous year has gone up by 6. The retention rate has gone down from your customers because of the new customers acquired, 55 down to 51. Number of lost customers from the previous year, 92 compared to 73, so an increased trend. So the actual impact, proportion of customers lost, 48.9%. So the impact of this means that we've lost value of 108,000 sales due to 19 fewer customers based on their average transaction value. So this is not just to impress you. What I'm saying is what we're thinking, well, we're talking about how do we measure it, but it's really difficult to do so because the software out there doesn't do it. So what we need to thought, well, we started scouring the market and found out what software is there that will actually do them. So there isn't actually, you do Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, it doesn't give you this information. You still have to delve deep into it. So by using this type of software, we're now able to get the analysis. And so we're looking at the current ratio and debtor days. Take that slightly further, we have a performance analysis that will take that information even deeper. So it says, what worked well, what didn't work well. Cost of sales for your 3 cost lines as a percentage of revenue has decreased. But you've generated 79 new customers over the past 12 months. 19, so that's a reduction in the number of new customers you generated. So 51.1% of your customers last year also bought from you this year, but that's a 4.2% drop on the amounts retained. So what it's doing is analysing the good bits and the bad bits from your figures. And then it just turns it into graphs and breaks down this information in terms of, say, right, our 1 million revenue, the movement percentage based on transactions. So we've actually got a profit impact of 1,000 less. So why is that? Well, we've got because of transactions, we made 50,000 more because of the number of transactions, but we had 52,000 less because we actually reduced our prices. So the impact of 10,000 profit on gross margin. So we actually got an improved gross margin overall because of the overall figures. The overheads, profit impact 10,000 because there's a drop in the overheads, and it just summarizes. And then we just move on and it starts going through all the analysis in a lot more detail. So what I'm saying is these are examples of identifying what matters. So if we identify what matters, how do we delve into it? Because it isn't easy. So this is now with artificial intelligence, we're going to see more and more of this. This is effectively using not artificial intelligence, but is using a lot of clever software to actually interrogate. So it goes and produces your customer analysis and produces it graphically. So it's saying, right, how many of your customers are spending money with you? How many compared to the previous year? What are your top 10 customers spending with you? How much of your top 10 customers, what's the reduction in the amount they spend? Because that's a danger sign. So are you actually analysing that sort of information? The statistics is mind-blowing, but if you can actually suddenly get that sort of information, it gives you an ability to actually identify, looking at all your different channels. So what, Michael? So you've got all this clever information. So we've got customer analysis, and we've got the same information analysed differently. We've got supplier analysis. What do you do about it? Let me just show you. Share another screen with you. Can you see that business growth model? Does that appear on your screen?
I think we're still looking at what we had before, Mike.
Okay, let me just start share again. Does that show? Yeah?
Yeah.
So your business growth model, if you're saying, right, I need to find more clients, I'm going to need to improve my sales, and I'm going to look at my customers. You need to have something that is going to improve your figures. So if we're looking to grow our number of customers, find new customers, get our existing customers, retain our existing customers, and we're looking to try and improve our margins and our net profit, we've got to make various assumptions. So we've got to put growth assumptions. So we've got to put last 12 months, we had a drop in customer acquisition of 19%. Previous 12 months, our customer retention was 51.1%. So here's something where we sit down with our clients, we say, right, okay, what do we need to do? So if we want to improve our customer retention, let's just look to see where our figures are going to be. At the moment, a net profit year 5 is going to be 53.7k. So if we look at our profit there, 53.7k, year 4, 54.6k, year 3, 56.4k, 59.8k. So what can we do differently? Because our profit is reducing if we carry on the way we're doing, because we're losing customers. So how can we reverse that trend? So what you need to do is be able to look at your business and say, well, how about if we improved our customer acquisition, say by 10%? So we're going to go to the marketeers around us and ask them to help us attract more customers. But equally, we've got to improve the number of customers we retain. So here it says, if you currently retain 50% of your customers from 1 year to the next and want to increase this to 60% in 5 years, enter 2% in the forecast. So it's just an example. Let me see what impact that has. Suddenly, our profit, instead of 57, is 281,000 in year 5. But you'll see a gradual increase just by changing those two variables. By saying we're going to improve our customer acquisition by 10%, and we're going to improve our customer retention by 2%. We could play with average number of transactions the customer spends, average transaction value, look at our gross margin, and look at our overheads. So these are the variables that we need to be looking at in our business. So the point of sharing that with you is just to say we need to think about our business differently. We need to think in terms of what is it that matters in our business, what is relevant, but rather than getting stuck into the how and just getting stuck into the financials, we need to start with the end in mind and go and move backwards. Identify what we think we need to achieve. Get somebody to challenge us, challenge our assumptions, ask ourselves why. Speak to somebody like Chris Hughes, who's been there, done it, and say, why do you think that's the right thing? Let's actually think about make sure we try and minimize the danger to us. So if we're going to have to invest and try new things, What do we have to do differently? Then, having got the why validated, then actually get stuck into the how and identify. So, what is it? Underlying success driver? What is the issue that we think is the underlying? Can we measure it? Is it a series of different things that we need to measure? Is it customer delight? Well, how do we measure it? Is it team delight? We just started a new measurement tool called Engagement Multiplier, where it's an online portal. Each quarter, our team are asked to tell us about how they feel. As you can imagine, we've got a team of 30. We've got a variation in views, but we need to hear it. So it's not. We just don't want to have our backs tickled. We want to be told straight. This is what we like that's happening. This is what we don't like. With us, a happy team makes a happy client. If we've got an unhappy team, we'll have unhappy clients. So one of the things we need to measure is our team satisfaction. So that is really important. I don't know if it applies to you. In due course, we'll be sharing that tool with you. But I know Martin, for example, has a measurement tool who I've been looking at that we'll be sharing with you in due course to look at how you have an online tool that clients can assess you regularly. So you can actually actively encourage people rather than actually going to them all the time, encourage them to give you instant feedback. It's important. A lot of people avoid it because they don't want to know about it, but it's something really important that we measure. So what is it that matters to you? I hope in that sort of run through, and it's gone back to basics, I hope that's sort of challenged your thinking. And I'm sorry about the number of no-shows that we've had today. That's their loss, but I wanted to share with you sort of some really fundamental stuff there, and where I see the change of the fact where we're investing. That's only going to change. I think all the people like Xero, QuickBooks, they're all going to Sage. They're all going to have to invest in this type of software to actually give far more detailed analysis than we're currently getting. So,
Mike, can I direct people to a book as well, which is Better Than Before, which is about habits? And, I know from being in your offices years and years ago, you've always been absolutely brilliant about the relationship with the staff. And I can't remember all the headings now, but you would arrive and everybody would put themselves in a category. And if they thought you were a miserable git, they would actually move you from where you had put yourself and move you to the miserable git. And it was great to have that kind of humour, if you like, and engagement, and throwing the balls into the negative positive pot as they leave the building so that you can gauge roughly what the mood was of the day. And the other thing too is that early picture. I think it was in Canada, and you're talking about the vision, the signposting, and wanting to know the where and the how, and linked to the book Better Than Before, which is about habits. And I think it's in that book, it's a great tool where they talk about, you have the saying of if ... then. So in other words, as you're measuring, you're also scenario planning, you're also thinking of consequences. Often people do all this stuff, but they don't go as far as what are the consequences of. And the if then tool is fantastic. So as you're measuring, if this happens, then we will that. And it really helps to have some of those statements as you're forecasting down with the vision, the where and the how, to then the if then takes the decision away, because you're slowly creating a habit as well. Fantastic book. It's called.
What's the book called?
Better Than Before. I've got it on the bookshelf.
Okay. Well, if you could share that information with me, and we'll share that with everybody when we follow up. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Any other observations?
I was going to say the other thing that becomes clear from your demonstration there, Mike, is that by changing one thing perhaps relatively small,
absolutely,
you can make quite a big difference. And also then that gives you a sort of a hard target to go for. So you could say, right, you've got to get 2% more customers, but that might be 10 customers. So that's suddenly achievable. Whereas you think, oh, where do I go with that? We can't get new customers. Well, I can get 10 because, that's exactly a manageable number.
So right, Kevin. And that's why when I talked about that 100% improvement in 1% improvement in 100 areas rather than 100% improvement in one area.
Yeah.
We could do that. And so sometimes in getting into the brains of our team and our colleagues, we become our own worst enemies, because that little voice on our shoulder, because we don't know, because we haven't actually identified what it means in hard figures, we don't know how many customers. And I once spoke to a firm of lawyers, and a corporate lawyer in that department increased their price by 25%. They were horrified, and they didn't. They were shocked that nobody even mentioned it. And it's just because the point was that the people were using them because they trusted the people and they relied on them. So that was just one impact, just in terms of people's belief systems. And so it really is important. Sometimes we can demonstrate that. Chris, you're not coming through. It's muted. No, it's.
Am I coming through now?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. The most significant thing you've reminded me of today, Mike, is that fantastic statement that the biggest profit robber in business is discounts.
Yep.
I had a sales force way back who were obsessed with discounting. And we had to spend an awful lot of time teaching them that table that you talked about. If you have a 30% margin, a 5% discount is a 20% increase in volume. They couldn't get their heads around that. We banned the word discount like you did, and we substituted on the invoices the word adjusted by. And we charged the sales force and ourselves with coming up with a list of tradables. This is our rate card. We will adjust it by the following tradables. If you pay us in 15 days as opposed to 30 days, we will adjust our price by 1.5%. If you will take the delivery in one fell swoop as opposed to staggered over 3 months, we will adjust it by another 1.5%. And we took the sales force, we actually removed the word discounting from the parlance, and it had a huge effect on bottom line.
It can be just a mental thing, can't it, Chris? As you say, it's that getting a different attitude from the people, as opposed to thinking they've got to use that thing. It's a different mindset. Yeah,
I mean, and the sales. Yeah, the key word in that was tradables. Oh. Yes, we will give you an adjusted price if you do this.
Yeah, because that helps your bottom line, because you're getting the money in quicker. You've got less of a credit risk, etc.
Yeah.
Yes, I always remember Derek Arden. We'll have to get him back, but one of his whole things in negotiation, again, is if I can do that for you, what can you do for me? Mm. And I think that's exactly the same, Chris.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a special thing. So you can have, so there's no one price, but it's a conditional price, but it's just never a discount.
And the other thing that really resonated with, I've loved listening to you, Mike. The other thing that really resonated with me today was this thing about your critical sales drivers. I suddenly woke up to it when I listened to a guy talking and saying, the problem with KPIs is they look backwards.
Yeah.
Critical success rates, CSFs, critical success failure, actually look forward. And he recounted the tale, as you did, of Continental, he did of British Airways with Lord King.
Yes.
He spent a fortune with consultants to tell him what the critical success factor was in turning around BA. And they came back with one statement: make the planes fly on time.
Yes.
And everything else falls out from that.
When we went to Australia 2 years ago, one of our friends went to the gym with the chief executive of Qantas. And so I was talking to him and I said, just can you ask him, because Qantas was in the situation where it was being turned around. They'd done their partnership with Emirates, and Qantas was the ugly duckling, but they were gradually turning it around. And I said, I'm just interested to know what are the factors that he's measuring as anything. And he just said, effectively, it could have been from Gordon Batoon's book, because the key things were the three key areas was on-time arrival, lost luggage, but customer complaints. There was an extra one on customer, so to do with the service, they measured something else on the customer service. But there were the four key areas that even in today's climate, that this guy was measuring, and said, you know, you lose track on it because you get so trapped into the routine, and that's whereas somebody like Ryanair, he says, well, you know, I don't care what you think because you can't get it cheaper elsewhere. So that's, but he will use a fanfare. So they added an extra half hour to their journeys, so they could always have their fanfare when they land. Say, once again, we've arrived on time, but they've actually allowed an extra half hour to allow them to arrive on time. But the crucial thing is, you know, we just don't know what change we're faced with. So it's, you know, so I'm heartened, you know, with not embarrassing Russ, but it's great when, so Russ and I, we were sitting on our veranda talking about, God, where's the next bit of business coming from? And we were talking about these difficult people negotiating, and yet then a few weeks later, Russ phoned and said, oh, God, you know, that one that we just got, a really difficult one, happens to be one of your friends. And when I found out who it was, and they've done an amazing job. And of course, what these difficult customers will become advocates and will become people that Russ can use to sing the praises of Colburn and Wingrove. So it's great to see when you have success like that happening. Great. Well, hope that's given you food for thought. That's what we're trying to do. Next meeting, I'm going to see if I can get Michael Geetson to come along. I've got a couple of people who've offered to do a session in November, so bear with me, and then I'll let you know. If you've got any questions, do follow up. Let me know, and we'll share it. We'll help in any way. And
I have one question, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, you talk about goals and purposes. What's yours?
What's our goal?
Yeah.
Well, you know what our goal is. So we, from our point of view, is to be the leading small firm in the area, and we want to grow our business. At the moment, we are 1.75 sales. We want to grow to 2 million this year. We want to grow by 250,000 sales for the next 5 years. So that's our financial goals. But our qualitative goals is to actually have being able to offer our clients and achieve a better quality of life by helping them to do the same.
Just checking.
Excellent session, Mike. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Mike. I'll see you next month.
Great.
Yeah,
Take care, everybody.
Good to see you all. Bye for now.
Mike.
Thank you.